The city of Luminara sprawled across the Martian surface like a glimmering spiderweb, its bioluminescent structures pulsing faintly under the twin moons. Within its confines, humanity had carved out a new existence among the stars. Yet for 13-year-old Sarah Jennings, the gleaming future was confined to the limited space of her wheelchair and the virtual vistas she explored through her neural uplink. While her peers attended galactic exploration training or raced drones through the vast Martian valleys, Sarah spent her days absorbed in astronomy and stories of alien civilizations. Her room was a sanctuary of starlight, with holographic constellations projected across the ceiling and shelves filled with digital archives of ancient Earth literature. The floor-to-ceiling window provided a stunning view of the crimson Martian sands, but Sarah's gaze was always upward, toward the shimmering expanse of stars that seemed to call to her. This evening was no different. Sarah was alone. Her parents, prominent diplomats, were attending a late meeting with the Martian Interstellar Council. She maneuvered her wheelchair to the window, the faint hum of its hover mechanism the only sound in the room. Her fingers traced an imaginary line across the sky. Alpha Centauri. Betelgeuse. Vega, she whispered to herself. The stars felt closer tonight, almost tangible, as though the cosmos were reaching out to her. Suddenly, the room's temperature dropped, and a faint hum began to vibrate the air. Her wheelchair sensors detected an energy surge, but before she could react, a bright, swirling portal materialized in the center of her room. It shimmered with hues that defied description, shifting between colors she'd never seen before. Sarah's voice was cut off as the portal expanded, filling the room with a resonant hum that made the walls quiver. Out of the vortex stepped three towering figures, their forms alien yet strangely majestic. They had elongated bodies covered in iridescent scales that shimmered like liquid metal. Their eyes glowed faintly, resembling miniature galaxies swirling in sockets set deep into their elongated heads. Tentacle-like appendages extended from their backs, moving with a grace that belied their size. They communicated in a series of musical tones, an unearthly symphony that seemed to bypass her ears and resonate directly in her mind. The Chosen One. At last, a voice echoed in her thoughts, though it was not her own. Sarah froze, her breath caught in her throat. The beings moved closer, their massive forms making her room seem impossibly small. One of them raised a clawed hand, and a soft light enveloped her wheelchair. "Wait, what are you doing?" she stammered, her voice shaking. Her heart pounded as the light grew brighter, encasing her in a cocoon of energy. The next thing she knew, the room dissolved around her, replaced by a vast starfield. She was no longer on Mars. Panic set in as she looked around, her wheelchair floating in a bubble of light. The aliens hovered nearby, observing her with a mixture of curiosity and reverence. She tried to speak, but her words were swallowed by the void. One of the creatures finally communicated directly to her mind, its tone soothing yet inscrutable. "You are the offering. The one foretold in the ancient texts of Xanthea. Your sacrifice will ensure the prosperity of our people." "Sacrifice?" Sarah's voice was a mix of incredulity and terror. "You've got the wrong person. I'm just a kid." The aliens ignored her protests, their melodic tones blending into a haunting chant. The starfield around her shifted, replaced by the sight of a massive planet, its surface gleaming with crystalline structures. A gaping cavern came into view, its entrance glowing ominously. As the bubble carrying her descended toward the cavern, Sarah felt a mix of dread and anger rising in her chest. She had always dreamed of venturing into the stars, but not like this. Not as a pawn in some alien ritual. With a deep breath, she steadied herself. If there was one thing Sarah had learned in her short but challenging life, it was resilience. Her mind raced, searching for a way to escape or at least delay the inevitable. The cavern loomed closer, and the faint roar of something monstrous echoed from within. Whatever awaited her, she would face it on her terms. "Sacrifice, huh?" she muttered under her breath, her hands gripping the edges of her wheelchair. "We'll see about that." The crystalline cavern yawned wide as Sarah's bubble of energy floated closer to the entrance. Its jagged edges shimmered like razor-sharp ice, reflecting the alien light from the twin suns of this strange planet. A low, rumbling growl echoed from deep within, reverberating through the bubble and into her chest. The Xanthian aliens hovered behind her, their voices resonating with anticipation. "The ritual is near," one of them intoned telepathically. "The dragon of Zarnath will accept the offering and bless our people once more." Sarah's heart raced as she tried to piece together what was happening. She couldn't believe how calm they were about sacrificing her to some mythical beast. Did they even realize what they were doing? She looked down at her hands, trembling but determined, and made a decision: she wouldn't go down without a fight. The bubble descended into the cavern, passing through a shimmering barrier that emitted a sharp hum. Once inside, the atmosphere changed drastically. The air was heavy, charged with a strange energy that made her skin tingle. The light from the crystalline walls bathed everything in hues of blue and silver, and Sarah's wheelchair gently settled onto a smooth, glass-like floor. Her bubble dissolved, leaving her alone. The Xanthians remained outside, their glowing eyes watching from the cavern's entrance. One of them raised a tentacled limb, releasing a high-pitched note that echoed through the chamber. A deafening roar answered from the shadows. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the ground began to shake. From the depths of the cavern, a massive form emerged, its silhouette growing larger with every step. The dragon of Zarnath was unlike anything she had ever imagined. Its body was covered in scales that shimmered like molten silver, and its wings spanned the cavern, their translucent membranes glowing faintly with veins of light. Its eyes burned like twin suns, and as it approached, it exhaled a plume of smoke that carried the scent of scorched air. "Okay, this is bad. Really bad," Sarah muttered, gripping the armrests of her wheelchair. Her mind raced, searching for anything she could use to her advantage. The dragon lowered its massive head, its eyes narrowing as it inspected her. She could feel the heat of its breath, and the intensity of its gaze was almost unbearable. She braced herself for the worst, but instead of attacking, the dragon paused. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, a voice not spoken, but telepathic filled her mind. "You are not like the others." Sarah blinked, stunned. "Why, you can talk?" "I can communicate," the dragon corrected, its tone deep and resonant. "The Xanthians bring me sacrifices to appease their fears. But you are different." "I'm not a sacrifice," Sarah exclaimed, her voice trembling with equal parts fear and defiance. "I didn't ask to be here. They kidnapped me from my home." The dragon tilted its massive head, the burning intensity in its eyes softening slightly. "You have a strong spirit, young one. Stronger than most who have entered my domain." Sarah's heart pounded as a flicker of hope sparked within her. If the dragon wasn't immediately trying to eat her, maybe she had a chance to survive. "Look, I don't know what kind of deal you've got with those aliens, but I'm not about to be your lunch. So if you could just let me go, that'd be great." The dragon chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that echoed through the cavern. "You misunderstand. I am no servant of the Xanthians. They are slaves to their own fears and traditions, and I have long grown weary of their offerings." Sarah's mind reeled. "Then why don't you stop them?" The dragon's eyes glimmered with something akin to regret. "I am bound by ancient magic, shackled to this cavern by their ancestors. But perhaps you can help me break free." Sarah's jaw dropped. "Me? I'm in a wheelchair. What could I possibly do?" "Your limitations are of the body, not the mind," the dragon said, its tone firm. "The Xanthians underestimated you, as they do all who do not fit their narrow view of strength. But I see potential in you." Sarah hesitated, the weight of the moment sinking in. She had spent her whole life being underestimated by society, by her peers, even by herself at times. But here, in this alien cavern, a massive dragon was looking at her like she was capable of something extraordinary. "What do you need me to do?" she asked, her voice steady. The dragon lowered its head until its massive eyes were level with hers. "The magic that binds me is tied to the crystals of this cavern. You must destroy them." Sarah glanced around at the shimmering walls. "And how am I supposed to do that?" The dragon opened its massive maw, revealing a glowing orb of energy nestled within. "Take this. It is a fragment of my essence. It will grant you the power to shatter the crystals. But be warned, once you accept it, there is no turning back." Sarah stared at the orb, her mind racing. She had no idea if she could pull this off, but what choice did she have? Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "All right. Let's do this." The dragon exhaled, and the orb floated toward her. As it entered her chest, Sarah felt a surge of energy unlike anything she had ever experienced. Her hands crackled with light, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly powerful. The dragon's voice resonated in her mind, stronger now. "Go, Sarah Jennings. Together, we will change our destinies." With newfound resolve, Sarah wheeled herself toward the nearest crystal, ready to take her first step into the unknown. Sarah's wheelchair glided smoothly over the cavern's glass-like floor, the energy from the dragon's essence coursing through her body. Her hands glowed faintly with an iridescent light, and her senses were heightened to a degree she had never thought possible. She could feel the hum of the crystals in the air, like a melody playing just out of reach. The dragon loomed behind her, its wings folded but its glowing eyes fixed on her every move. "You said the crystals are the key to your freedom," Sarah said, her voice echoing in the cavern. "But if they're tied to your magic, what happens when they're destroyed? What happens to you?" The dragon's voice resonated in her mind, calm yet solemn. "I do not know. The magic binding me is ancient and shrouded in secrecy. My existence may be tied to the crystals, or I may be liberated entirely. That is the risk I must take. But I cannot endure this captivity any longer." Sarah hesitated, gripping the armrests of her wheelchair. The weight of what she was about to do pressed heavily on her. This wasn't just about her survival anymore, it was about a creature's freedom and maybe even something greater. She looked up at the dragon, its immense form a mix of power and vulnerability, and nodded. "All right. Let's get started." The first crystal was embedded in the far wall of the cavern, its jagged surface glowing with an eerie blue light. As Sarah approached, the air grew thick with energy, and the faint hum she had heard earlier grew louder, vibrating through her body. "Focus," the dragon instructed. "The power I have given you will resonate with the crystal. Channel it, and you will break it." Sarah took a deep breath, raising her hand toward the crystal. The glow in her palm intensified, and she felt a surge of energy flow through her. The crystal began to vibrate, its hum turning into a high-pitched whine. Then, with a blinding flash of light, it shattered into 1,000 glittering shards. The force of the explosion sent a shock wave through the cavern, and Sarah shielded her face as fragments rained down around her. When the dust settled, she looked up to see the dragon watching her with what she could only describe as approval. "Well done," it said. "But there are more to destroy, and the Xanthians will not stand idly by." As if on cue, the ground trembled, and the sound of footsteps echoed from the cavern entrance. Sarah turned to see a group of Xanthians entering, their shimmering forms reflecting the light of the crystals. Their glowing eyes were fixed on her, and their musical voices were now sharp and dissonant. "The offering defiles the sacred crystals," one of them intoned. "She must be stopped." The dragon let out a deafening roar, shaking the walls of the cavern. "They will not harm you. I will ensure it." The Xanthians hesitated, their fear of the dragon evident, but they didn't retreat. Instead, they raised their tentacled arms, and a wave of energy shot towards Sarah. Instinctively, she raised her glowing hands, and the energy dissipated before it could reach her. "I guess I have a few tricks of my own now," Sarah muttered, her confidence growing. The dragon took flight, its massive wings creating a gust of wind that knocked the Xanthians off balance. Go, Sarah. Destroy the next crystal while I hold them off. Sarah wheeled herself toward the next crystal, her heart pounding. It was larger than the first, its light pulsating like a heartbeat. As she approached, she could feel the energy coursing through it, stronger and more volatile than before. Raising her hand, she focused on the glow in her palm. The crystal began to resonate, its hum turning into a deafening roar. This time, the energy fought back, pushing against her power. Sweat dripped down her face as she concentrated, pouring every ounce of strength she had into the crystal. Come on, she muttered through gritted teeth. Break already. With a final surge of energy, the crystal exploded, sending another shockwave through the cavern. Sarah was thrown backward, her wheelchair skidding across the floor. She groaned, her body aching, but she quickly pushed herself upright. There was no time to rest. The dragon landed beside her, its wings folding protectively around her as more Xanthians entered the cavern. You are doing well, but the final crystal will be the most difficult. It lies in the heart of the cavern, guarded by the strongest of their magic. Sarah nodded, determination burning in her eyes. Then let's finish this. Together, they made their way deeper into the cavern, the sounds of battle echoing behind them. The final crystal towered above them, its light blinding and its energy pulsating like a living being. Around it, intricate symbols glowed on the floor, creating a barrier of shimmering light. This is it, Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. You have the power to break the barrier, the dragon said. I will protect you from whatever comes next. Sarah raised her hands, the glow in her palms intensifying as she focused on the barrier. The symbols flared brighter, resisting her power, but she didn't back down. She pushed harder, drawing on the energy the dragon had given her. The barrier cracked, then shattered, and the crystal's hum grew deafening. Sarah aimed all her energy at the towering crystal, her body trembling with the effort. The cavern shook violently, and cracks spread across the crystal's surface. With a final, ear-splitting roar, the crystal exploded, flooding the cavern with light. When the light faded, the dragon stood tall, its chains of magic broken. It let out a triumphant roar, its wings unfurling as it rose into the air. You're free, Sarah said, a weary smile on her face. The dragon looked down at her, its burning eyes filled with gratitude. Thanks to you, Sarah Jennings. Now, let us face the Xanthians together and reclaim this world from their tyranny. Sarah nodded, her determination stronger than ever. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, she felt like she was truly capable of changing her destiny and the fate of an entire planet. The cavern trembled as the dragon, newly unshackled from its magical bindings, soared into the air. Its wings spread wide, filling the vast space with a presence both majestic and fearsome. The Xanthians that had pursued Sarah faltered at the sight, their symphonic tones breaking into dissonant chaos. They hadn't expected the dragon of Zarnath to rise against them. Sarah sat in her wheelchair, catching her breath as the energy from her battle with the crystals coursed through her. Though she was exhausted, the dragon's voice rang in her mind, clear and invigorating. The time for fear is over. You have given me freedom, Sarah Jennings. Now we will bring it to others. The cavern's entrance erupted with alien reinforcements. Dozens of Xanthians flooded the space, their tentacled limbs crackling with energy. They chanted in their melodic language, invoking ancient spells and forming shimmering barriers to trap the dragon. But the dragon would not be restrained again. Stay close, it told Sarah, lowering its massive head. She gripped the armrests of her wheelchair as the dragon's telekinetic energy lifted her gently onto its back. With a powerful leap, the dragon launched itself upward, smashing through the crystalline ceiling of the cavern and into the open sky. The planet's surface stretched out below, a breathtaking expanse of crystalline cities and glowing rivers. For a brief moment, Sarah marveled at the alien beauty, but the sight of Xanthian airships rising from the cities snapped her back to reality. The ships, sleek and metallic, swarmed toward them, their weapons glowing with an ominous light. "They will not yield without a fight," the dragon said. "Are you ready, young one?" Sarah clenched her fists. "I didn't come this far to give up now." The dragon roared, unleashing a torrent of energy from its mouth. The beam sliced through the sky, shattering one of the airships and sending the others into disarray. Sarah could feel the dragon's immense power coursing through her, and she realized that the fragment of its essence within her gave her control over its energy. Raising her hands, she focused on one of the ships, sending a wave of telekinetic force that slammed it into another, reducing both to smoking debris. Below, the Xanthians scrambled in confusion. Their entire system of power and fear was unraveling before their eyes. Sarah felt a pang of guilt for the chaos she was unleashing, but she reminded herself of the countless lives, human and alien, that had likely suffered under their oppressive rule. As they soared over the capital city, the dragon spoke again. "Their leader resides in the Tower of Harmony. It is the source of their control over this planet. If we destroy it, their hold will crumble." The Tower of Harmony was a massive crystalline spire that dominated the cityscape. Its light pulsed rhythmically, and Sarah could sense its power even from a distance. It wasn't just a structure, it was a nexus of energy, amplifying the Xanthians' influence across the planet. "I'll handle the tower," Sarah said, her voice resolute. "Can you hold off the airships?" The dragon rumbled in approval. "You are brave, young one. Go with my blessing." With a sweep of its massive wings, the dragon descended toward the tower, shielding Sarah from enemy fire. As they approached, it slowed, hovering just above the spire's peak. Sarah's wheelchair floated down gently, landing on a crystalline platform that vibrated with energy. The top of the tower was a dazzling array of light and sound, with arcs of energy crackling between towering crystal spires. Sarah could feel the power radiating through her, making her every nerve tingle. She knew this was the heart of the Xanthians' control, and she had to destroy it. Drawing on the energy the dragon had given her, Sarah raised her hands. The glow in her palms intensified, and the crystals began to hum in response. The platform shook violently as she channeled her power, focusing it into a single, massive burst. The spires cracked, their hum turning into a high-pitched wail. From below, the Xanthians unleashed a desperate assault, their voices rising in a chaotic symphony. Energy beams streaked toward her, but the dragon intercepted them, its massive form shielding her from harm. "Almost there," Sarah muttered, her voice strained. The power within her was almost overwhelming, but she pushed through, determined to finish what she had started. With a deafening crack, the spires shattered, and the tower erupted in a cascade of light. The ground below trembled, and the air was filled with a blinding brilliance. When the light faded, the Tower of Harmony was no more. The Xanthian airships faltered and fell from the sky, their energy sources disrupted. On the ground, the Xanthian soldiers retreated in disarray, their once unshakable confidence broken. Sarah collapsed in her wheelchair, exhausted but triumphant. The dragon landed beside her, its eyes glowing with pride. "You have done it, Sarah Jennings," it said. "The Xanthians' reign is over. Freedom will return to this world." Sarah smiled weakly. "We did it. Together." In the days that followed, the dragon rallied the liberated inhabitants of the planet, uniting them in a new era of cooperation and peace. Sarah became a symbol of hope, her story spreading across the galaxy as a testament to the power of courage and determination. When it was time for Sarah to return to Earth, the dragon escorted her, their bond unbroken. Though she returned to her wheelchair and her familiar life on Mars, she was forever changed. She had touched the stars, stood against impossible odds, and proven that even the smallest voice could roar loud enough to change the universe. And somewhere, out among the stars, the dragon of Zarnath soared free, a reminder of the incredible partnership that had turned the tide of an alien world.